All right, it is 10:15. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the first weekly Ken Reeves Memorial Weather Briefing of the semester. I'm Campus Weather Service President Christopher Tate. Glad to be joining you on a, so far, relatively pleasant Monday morning. We have our own Dr. Jon Nese, teaching professor at Penn State, to give the first weather briefing of the semester. And Dr. Nese, I will let you have the floor, sir.
Okay, for anyone who had to see my pregame calisthenics, I apologize. I was just stretching. When you get to be my age, you have to stretch.
It's all good.
It's all good. Okay, so I'm assuming, unless Christopher tells me otherwise, that my screen is visible to everyone. It is always an honor to do this in honor of Ken Reeves, who was not only a friend of mine, but a friend of many in the department. AccuWeather meteorologist, always encouraged collaboration between the department and AccuWeather. Ken tragically passed away. It's been almost 10 years. Forgive me, this should be 2021. Geez, time flies when you're having fun. It's been almost 10 years, and it's a pleasure to do this in Ken's honor. So I hope that I have some interesting and informative tidbits for you today, sort of summarizing the forecast highlights. It's going to be a relatively mild week in central Pennsylvania. Seems to me that both by day and at night, temperatures should be generally 8 to 10 degrees above average. There's a front nearby this morning in northern Pennsylvania. We will stay on the warm side of that front most of the time. Mid 80s for highs the first couple days of this week, and then it'll drop down a notch, but not that much. Looks like the best chance of showers and thunderstorms, at least in the short range, is on Wednesday. Cold front will be approaching from the west and kind of weakening as the main support in the upper levels lifts into Canada. And the other highlight, of course, today is Nicholas, probably bringing 10 inches or more of rain to parts of coastal Texas, primarily east of Houston and south of Houston. One question is exactly where does its moisture go? And the models have been teasing a second tropical development north of the Bahamas. The GFS much more bullish than the European ensembles in developing something off the coast. At least needs to be monitored. It does not look to be an issue here in Pennsylvania. By the way, on this date last year, we had reached in the tropics the letter S for Sally, and Teddy would be born tomorrow. So although this year's tropical pace has been brisk, it's nowhere near where we were last year at this time. It's always worth spending 30 seconds to a minute talking about where we've been. Here are some beautiful diagrams, this wonderful website from the High Plains Climate Center, where you can create departures and a variety of other maps. Bottom line, last 30 days, we've all lived through it, or most of us have lived through it, those of us who have been here the entire 30 days. It's been a warm period. It's been a wet period, particularly in eastern Pennsylvania, but the entire state for the last 30 days has been above average precipitation-wise. The statistics just in from NCEI, well, late last week, the numbers were crunched. August was the fourth warmest and 10th wettest on record in Pennsylvania, which makes me happy on the warm side because we had a long shot that was issued many, many months ago that August would be warm, and indeed it was. Summer as a whole, June, July, August, 6th warmest and 11th wettest on record in Pennsylvania. So a little climatological perspective. Drilling down to today, the average highs and lows across the state are on your screen. These numbers are dropping, decreasing at the rate of about 2.5 degrees per week. The sun is still rising a little bit north of east and setting a little bit north of west. But we all know that'll be a changing. And we're losing about 19 minutes per week of daylight. And of course, fall officially arrives next Wednesday. at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So take a look at those numbers and add of order 8 to 10 degrees for the next couple days, both on the maximum and the minimum side. All right, so we'll go over to my other source now. What do we got? Yeah, so here in Walker Building, the equipment up on the roof. I'm still getting used to this new format, even though how many months has it been, Bill Syret, since we changed over to this format? It's been many, maybe it's been a full year. I can't even remember. But it was a warm night. The equipment, I did not check the official low, but temperature did not drop below 70 overnight here in Walker Building. Dew points in the mid 60s. On the other side of campus, 74 with a dew point of, where's the dew point on this? 67. So it's a warm, muggy morning for September 13th in central Pennsylvania. I wanted to begin by showing this is a radar loop that I saved from overnight. Bit of an MCS, kind of a bow echo structure, passed through southern and central New York overnight, just grazing the northern counties of Pennsylvania. There were a couple severe weather reports in extreme western New York, and you can trace that back across central lower Michigan. And so you have this boundary that is just to our north. It served as the focusing mechanism for some severe weather overnight. Generally speaking, it's always nice to start at weather.gov to check out the watches and warnings and advisories. And I mean, relatively speaking, what do we have? Some, what is that down in Arizona? Those are red flag warnings. Oh, those are excessive heat warnings. Okay, well, no surprise there. And we have some dense fog advisories. We have the advisories with respect to Nicholas. But otherwise, there's not a whole lot going on nationally. Here's the visible satellite animation. And you can really get the sense, this linear structure from northern Iowa across lower Michigan into northern Pennsylvania. That is a boundary. Nicholas shows up very well here. Let's go over to the IR. The IR nicely shows a couple more thunderstorm, at least one more thunderstorm complex moving across Lake Michigan right now. And Nicholas slowly moving off to the north-northwest. Let's switch on over to the radar, and you can see one dying thunderstorm complex. Well, I suspect it's dying, although maybe it's just out of U.S. radar range there in just north of Lake Erie. And then there's that second complex. So this boundary to the north of Pennsylvania is firing up this morning. And so I do think today, though, most of the action's on the north side of that boundary. So I'm going to keep it sunny here, mostly sunny here today, without the mention of any precip. And now we can see the counterclockwise circulation associated with Nicholas already bringing the first band of precipitation into East Texas. I always like to kind of check out where things stand with respect to average, focusing on Pennsylvania at this hour. Actually, let's see if we can update this and get 14Z. There we go. So the fact that identifiers in Williamsport and Harrisburg show up in this bottom left graphic tells us that this morning at this hour is a top 10% warmest in terms of where we are historically. So this is a mild morning, and we can do the same thing with the current dew point and see that dew points are of order 8 to 10 degrees above the long-term climatological average in Pennsylvania as well. As far as temperature change over the last 24 hours, What caught my eye here is that with that boundary sagging southward and clouds on the cold side of the boundary, temperatures in Wisconsin, Michigan, and even New York are lower than they were 24 hours ago. In large part, I think that's because of the clouds and the fact that they're now on the colder side of a boundary. Been talking about this boundary. Here's how the Weather Service plots it out this morning. They analyze it as a stationary front, almost right on the Pennsylvania-New York border, back across Erie, bit of a wave analyzed in northern Illinois. But this boundary is really the weather maker, shall we say, over the next few days in Pennsylvania. Here in State College, we'll be on its warm side nearly all of the time over the next really 48 to 60 hours. One reason that boundary is not going to make much southward progress, if you take a look at this is now the GEFS 500 millibar plot, valid at 12Z. And we're very much in a ridge position. I mean, the 500 millibar height here, according to the GEFS, is 5880 meters. That's a fairly hefty 500 millibar height for this time of year. And we pretty much stay in the ridge position. So you have a front draped to our north, and aloft, at least, we're kind of in a ridgy position. I guess there's a bit of a northward component to the 500 millibar flow here, but this is not the kind of 500 millibar flow that's going to drive a surface front through southward through Pennsylvania in the near term. The always colorful Venture sky nicely shows the convergence associated with that front. You can see it in much of New York. You have northwesterly low-level flow, whereas in Pennsylvania, that flow is westerly or southwesterly. Ohio's in a deep southwesterly flow. To the north of the front, it's more of a northeasterly flow. And you really can nicely see that boundary that slices through lower Michigan and then into sort of near the Illinois-Wisconsin border back to northern Iowa. Shows up very nicely. Even on the surface map, let's see, this is updated. Look at the dew points in Pennsylvania, the green numbers, 63, 66, 66. So it's a muggy morning in Pennsylvania. You go north into New York State, the dew points drop 54, 58, 59, but it's not a dramatic decrease. Looks like it's showering in Erie at the moment. Storm Prediction Center does have a slight risk of severe thunderstorms, essentially in the northeastern quadrant of Pennsylvania for today. And then tomorrow, we're just in the general thunderstorm area. And then we see the signature of sort of a cold front approaching from the west. And we are actually in a slight risk on Wednesday for severe thunderstorms here in Happy Valley. A tried and true rule that I've heard repeated over and over by my professors when I was a student here is that once you get past the equinox, it really is kind of unusual to get a thunderstorm in central Pennsylvania, certainly not out of the question, but the equinox is kind of an artificial delimiter for when thunderstorm season really diminishes here in central Pennsylvania. Let's let the Weather Service maps show us where that boundary is going to go. This is 18Z today, 0Z this evening. One could argue that the cold front is on State College's doorstep, but overnight, though, with a weak wave approaching from the west, the front lifts north, and during the day tomorrow will dramatically lift north as a warm front, and State College is in the chance of thunderstorms tomorrow, and by 12Z on Wednesday morning, a cold front that means business is approaching Erie, and that's the front that will attempt to come through here on Wednesday, weaken as it does, and then leave us in kind of a limbo for Thursday and Friday, because there's not a significant push of cooler, drier air coming in, but instead this front will kind of wash out and remain in our vicinity both a Thursday and Friday. So let's kind of look at this from the perspective of a deterministic model. Here's the GFS, and hopefully this is still, if we were doing this in the Weather Center, I'd be concerned that people could not see the maps. But if we are indeed doing this virtually and everyone is sitting at a computer screen, hopefully you're seeing precisely what I'm seeing. And thus it makes sense to use the 6-panel prog. Notice today, one of the reasons I don't have anything in the forecast today, despite the proximity of that front to our north, is, well, there's a lot of, one could argue, negative vorticity advection going on today. In other words, the upper levels are not helping us today. And so I'm just going to keep it mostly sunny here today, despite the presence of a boundary just to our north. By tomorrow, that sort of that ridginess gives way a little bit. And so we no longer have a negative influence at high altitudes, but instead, arguably, in the heat of the day tomorrow, I can see a thunderstorm bubbling up. The real upper air enhancement approaches on Wednesday morning, 500 millibars, but you can see the energy as represented by the vorticity maximum is going to lift well to our north and west and try to drag that front through here. The GFS does have a significant 700 millibar humidity signal with that front that tries to come through here later in the day on Wednesday. This is 0Z Thursday. So I think late in the day, there's a decent precipitable water signature. Late in the day on Wednesday, probably the best chance of getting a shower or thunderstorm in the next 60 hours. At the surface, though, you can see the front is really washing out here. I mean, the 570 line is still at State College, but somewhere in this trough right in there is the dying front. And really, by the time you get to Thursday morning, you would be hard pressed to even locate the front at the surface, though the cloud panel and the 700 millibar relative humidity panel would suggest that we're still cloudy on Thursday morning. By this time, what's left of Nicholas is this blob of higher relative humidity in the eastern Tennessee Valley and southern Appalachians. And it really, if you believe the GFS, that moisture kind of gets sucked northward on Thursday. And so Thursday's another day with the chance of showers and thunderstorms. And again, some of this vorticity here is the leftover from Nicholas. But what the GFS does is eventually it brings in enough push from the west that skedaddles out of here, so that by Saturday afternoon, which is where we are in this panel, we're drying out here in central Pennsylvania. So this is an optimistic forecast, a deterministic forecast for Saturday being a day which by that time, the risk of showers and thunderstorms is gone. Now, the European model, on the other hand, it tracks that front through here on Wednesday. Here's Wednesday afternoon. So you can see the trough in the 500 millibar flow, but the main vortmax has lifted northward. You can see on the thickness and sea level pressure pattern, the signature of an approaching front, sort of a little bit of thickness packing to our north and west, and some precipitation moving in. And so this looks very similar to the GFS at 0Z on Thursday, with a fairly solid line of showers and perhaps some thunderstorms coming through Pennsylvania late in the day on Wednesday. Late in the day on Wednesday. But then that front washes out, and to some extent, the European does the same thing that the GFS does. The ghost of Nicholas on Thursday night is in the Tennessee Valley. But instead of doing what the GFS does, which is eventually push that vorticity to our east by Saturday, the European slows it down. And so Saturday's forecast, based on the deterministic European, still has the risk of showers and thunderstorms in it. And the ensemble products are very similar. The GFS ensemble product, if you look at it, there's still a fairly good hint here in State College. A fair number of members on Saturday have precipitation. The European ensemble product for Saturday, a little harder to read here, but certainly right around kickoff on Saturday, the box and whiskers diagram of precipitation shows enough members that have measurable precipitation here in the 6 hours surrounding the football game on Saturday. So I think there's still some uncertainty, and I present with some trepidation a weather forecast for Saturday. Here's the 5-day outlook from the Hurricane Center. I mentioned earlier that there was some concern about a disturbance off the coast. That's the orange oval here. The possibility, 50% chance of tropical cyclone formation over the next 5 days. That would be a Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Friday thing. The GFS is much more bullish about this. You can watch a number of the members as we get into, this is Wednesday and then Thursday and Friday. A number of the members produce a tropical cyclone off the coast that pretty much parallels the coast. The Europeans not nearly as bullish about that particular feature. So where does this leave us? Where does this leave us? As far as the central Pennsylvania forecast goes, I'm going to go with mainly sunny today. I know there's still a good deal of cloudiness out there right now, but I think this is a warm and fairly humid day. Dew points are going to be in the mid 60s. A mild and humid night tonight. 66 might be too low, given that it didn't go below 70 here last night. I mean, very well, that could be 68 or maybe even 70 tonight. I don't see a strong argument for lowering the temperature. And then I'm going to introduce the slight chance of a shower or a thunderstorm tonight with the proximity of the front and sort of the mean ridge axis moving to our east. Maybe a little fog tomorrow, particularly if you get a shower tonight, and then partly sunny with an afternoon shower or thunderstorm possible tomorrow. And I guess I didn't complete. Wednesday is another humid and warm day with, let's go with an enhanced risk of showers and thunderstorms, mainly late afternoon and evening. And some of the showers could produce gusty winds. Seems like a reasonable forecast for Wednesday here in State College. Ahead of that front, it's got to be in the 80s again. So I would give us another 83 to perhaps 85 on Wednesday as well, especially if we can get some sunshine out right ahead of that front. You can get some really mild days and get some southwesterly wind blowing on Wednesday. So here's your PSU Auburn forecast. I make this with some concern. I'm going to go with the optimistic GFS forecast, partly cloudy, dry with kickoff temperature in the low 70s. And we'll go with Penn State by a field goal in the game just because. I see I have about 6 minutes left. Winter is definitely coming. This is a forecast from this would have been yesterday's GFS. This is what is this? An 8-day total snowfall forecast. So if you believe the GFS, there will be some snow, accumulating snow in the mountains of the Western US and Western Canada by this time next Monday. I'm not exactly sure when that snow occurs, but there it is. I thought it would be worth just showing that the bulk of the long-range models are forecasting us to officially get back into a La Nina, one of these situations where we were in a La Nina last winter, then we went sort of neutral, and the consensus is we're back in a La Nina for the winter of 2021-22. What does this mean? Well, the La Nina fingerprint in the United States in the lower 48 during winter looks like this over on the left. La Nina winters tend to be relatively mild in the south, and in the far north, some hint of relative chill. I point this out because if you look at the current winter forecast from the Climate Prediction Center, it looks very much like the La Nina fingerprint. There are certainly similarities between the chart on the left and the chart on the right. And so at this moment, the Climate Prediction Center is banking on the La Nina fingerprint for the winter. And plus, as they will tell you, it's not just La Nina, it's La Nina plus the long-term trend, which is towards warming. As far as precip is concerned, the La Nina fingerprint in the lower 48 during a La Nina looks like what you see on the left, dry in the south and sort of a hint of moist in the north. And if you look at the current Climate Prediction Center forecast for the winter, it kind of resembles the La Nina fingerprint. So I think what you're going to see in the government forecasts for this winter is very much using what has happened in the past when it comes to La Nina. Having said all of that, it is worth noting that last winter, the Climate Prediction Center forecast looked a lot like this. And if you remember last winter, even though we did have a La Nina, what ended up happening looked nothing like that. In other words, last winter, the La Nina fingerprint, based on statistical correlations from the past, did not work. It did not work at all. And in fact, was a terrible forecast. And so it will be interesting to see this winter. And I haven't looked at any other analogs, and I'm sure we'll do this on Weather World in 2 months, try to put out a winter forecast. But we're headed back into another La Nina, if you believe the long-range models. And so I think I've come in under my 30 minutes of allotted time. I would love to entertain any questions or comments, and thank you for allowing me to do this.
Certainly, Dr. Nese, thank you as always for hosting a very informative discussion. If you do have any questions or comments that you'd like to pass along to Dr. Nese, both the chat and Q&A are available on Zoom. And for those of you who are joining us on YouTube, I am keeping half of an eye on YouTube live chat, so you can put questions there and I'll relay them into Zoom.
Bill, thank you. The official overnight low was 72. Our low was 1 degree below a 100-year record. Oh, the overnight low was 72, right. The actual low last night, which of course is a 24-hour, must have occurred last night. 1 degree below a 100-year record of 69. Interesting. Very nice. 68 yesterday morning. Okay.
So you said Penn State by a field goal for the.
By a field goal. Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, I think I saw, I forget who it was, but I was talking with my parents last night about the fact that the whiteout was this weekend. And I think somebody had a prediction it was Penn State by 7.
Just because Auburn has scored 60 points in each of their first 2 games. Oh boy. I'm the only person who can choke on water. Why not?
I thought I saw on Twitter yesterday, is it OU that had the game? They won something like 76-0.
Who's that?
I think it was OU, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, Oklahoma played. I think it was they played some high school in Kansas. Yeah, that's who Oklahoma played. No, they played South Carolina. No, not South Carolina State. They played. I don't remember. Marissa would know.
Marissa says it was Western Carolina.
Yeah,
I know somebody who goes there. Sooner. You're welcome, Marissa.
Yeah, here's an interesting question. How many states have all 4 of the directional universities in them? So North Carolina is one of them. North Carolina, South Carolina. No. There's no, that's not going to work because South Carolina is.
And yeah.
Right, like because there's a Western Michigan, an Eastern Michigan, a Northern Michigan, but there's no Southern Michigan.
Huh.
Right?
Right.
So are there any states that have all 4 directions in terms of universities? I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't either. That'd be an interesting geography project for somebody down the road, I think. Anyway, all right. Well, seeing no further questions in chat and there's nothing on YouTube, Dr. Nese, thank you again for this week's weather briefing.
My pleasure. Thank you, Christopher, for doing this.
And of course, this briefing has been live streamed on YouTube and will be available for replay shortly thereafter. And next week, we'll have a weather briefing, same time, same place, 10:15 a.m. Eastern. Don't have a presenter lined up yet for that, but there will be announcements forthcoming on that note. Have a great week, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, sir.